So Rita Fürstenau is an illustrator and a surface pattern designer. That's what I read on your website. I love this. Yeah, I have an activity in my comics classes in which my students have to design themselves as a pattern. So I could immediately relate to this. And she is also a teacher, and since 2008 she runs Rotopol and looks for projects with a strong personal style and independence of thought and visual language. And she is very active in holding workshops on comics, illustrations, and screen printing. And she is all over the world with Rotopol, visiting the coolest art fairs that we can imagine. And now the floor is Rita's.
Thank you so much, Eszter, and thank you so much, Tinta Festival and the conference for inviting me here and visiting this amazing place again. And I will tell a little bit about the publishing house that I co-founded and that I'm running. And I will just very briefly give an insight into what kind of books we do and also about the collaboration process with the artists. I will hold this very, very short to talk more about what we do once a book is published and how we create possibilities for people to connect to the books, connect to the artists, connect to our vision and our interest in graphic storytelling. So. And if you want to have a closer look at the books, you can join the fair tomorrow. I will be there with the books, and a lot of other amazing people with their amazing books will be there as well. So Rotopol is a publisher for graphic storytelling, and we do publish comics. I will click through the images while I talk. But it is not really about publishing comics. I like the term graphic storytelling because for me it describes the whole world of visually telling a story. And it is not so interesting for us if you frame it as a comic or an illustrated book or graphic poetry. Any kind of relation between text and image, I think, can be very interesting. And I really like to encourage our artists to explore this field and to find their very own unique language of graphically telling the story. Many of them already bring all this, but then still it's nice as a publishing house to open a door to explore this rather than being like, I don't know, bring in your own version of what you like or not like in that field. So we have quite a lot of books that work with panels or not panels that are very different with the techniques. Here's a book by Nino Bulling we already saw in the other presentation. And I also think as a publishing house, I don't bring in my own program of projects that I would like to have, but rather open the space for the artists to bring their own topics, their own stories. That can be personal stories, that can also be documentary stories. A lot of the stories also, just deal with living in today's world, of course, and weave them into very different forms, let's say. And I think it's interesting to combine these under the roof of one publishing house to give the audience access to different ways of understanding that also images or books with images can be interesting for adults. They kick off ideas, they question ideas or systems, they tell stories we otherwise would not know. They can be humorous, they can be challenging in any means. I think that's the interesting thing to create this, world of books together in one program. And so for me as a publisher, it's more like curating the ideas, the stories, the topics that come from the artist and bringing them and presenting them in a program that somehow makes sense. Also, for example, for a bookstore to say, well, I think this is a good book for our bookstore. Some of the books are serious also. Most of the artists we collaborate with come from Germany, but this is not a must. We also have original works from people from other countries, people who just currently live in Germany, and also translate some books like this, for example, into German, where we think, well, this is exciting work. It would be really nice to also make it possible for the German audience to read it. And when it comes to age structure, We started really with publishing comics and illustrated books for an adult audience. But over the time, our artists also started, well, they got families and they started to work more with content for children. So now we also publish comic books for children, like these two series, and also picture books. And for me, this is just something from the beginning on. I thought it would be so great to do it, but then just realizing the picture book market in Germany works completely different. And then we really had to get that one project to start with, because in comics we are super free. It's not a big market, but picture books in Germany have some kind of tradition, so it was a bit tricky to just enter from the fields of publishing comics for adults into that field. But now I'm super happy that we got this field as well, because for me it's very organically. It's not about creating a book for a specific audience. It's about showing possibilities, showing different approaches, different artistic and narration approaches, and making them available for people to explore and to experience. And we really like to also work in the borders or the intersections between different genres, let's say. These are not so interesting, but then also challenging the audience or playing with traditions. And the picture books, also in the format, not every book, so some books are more fold-outs or concertinas, and we do have also books that we publish in English, and smaller projects like those zine-like booklets where artists can just focus on one single idea and do like maybe a 32-page story, and these are easy to travel to festivals and also to bookstores around the world. So that was just a very quick insight. Not all the books that we published were on the screen, but just a selection. And then I thought I'd just maybe start a little bit, how did the publishing house come into the world? What was the backstory of that? So this is the art school in Kassel. We are located in Germany, in Kassel. It's a rather small town, but with a very great art school. And in 2001, I went there to study to become an arts teacher. And during my studies, I realized, well, actually, I'm also studying illustration, because the school is organized in a very democratic way. You can participate in all different kinds and classes. So I did this as a second studies. And when I finished my final examination for becoming a teacher, and I still thought I will become a teacher, I just continued with the illustration studies. And during the studies, I went to a lot of book fairs. I loved bookstores since ever I was a child. I think these are very special places to discover the world and yourself. And when I then focused on studying illustration, I got a little bit frustrated. I thought, well, there's this amazing world at the art school. I saw all the great things that my colleagues did, the other students did, the questions we were working on, the things we explored. And whenever I came into a bookstore, it felt so small. I thought, well, nothing is visible. And when I went to the book fairs and asked to talk to publishing houses in the field of illustration, I always felt like I heard this sentence so often, like, there is no market for these things. And at one point I thought, well, how do we know there is no market when no one ever got to see these things? It's like you study and then you close the box and then you try to aim to what work like the mainstream is working if you want to make some money. And I thought this just cannot be it. And so I tried to get some smaller publications into bookstores, but the retailers were so irritated. They were like, there is no publishing house, no ISBN number. What the heck are you doing there? So I thought, well, it can't be. The moment I understood, okay, so the business structure behind it is to have for publishing house publishing the things, I thought maybe it cannot be too hard to found a publishing house. So it was January, the spirit of the new year in 2006, and I went to the city council in Kassel and I said, well, I want to start a publishing house. And they said, cool, give me 22 euros. Here's the paper. What's the name gonna be? I was like, oh, I have to find a name. So I founded the publishing house Verlag ohne Titel, which means like publisher without a name or without a title, because I had to decide on the spot. And thought, well, this is nice. I can buy some ISBN numbers now, and I can just start going and bringing those books into the bookstores without getting all these strange questions. And during the next year, I was promoting the idea at the art school, and I was just telling everyone, well, there's a publishing house now. I just bought 100 ISBN numbers, so let's collaborate. And I found 4 other people who were really into the idea. And we explored it together, and then after a year, we named it Rotopol. So the publishing house became its name from this small collective that we were. And we also found a place at that time. This is the building we're still in. And we thought, well, when we open the building, it has to have a name, what we are doing. So it was Rotopol. And we learned everything alongside. And since 2016, I'm running the project by myself with a small team. And it was a lot of learning while doing, but we were lucky to get these nice places. This is some insights into our working place, books, boxes everywhere. And at the moment, it's me working like 2 jobs at the publishing house, and then I have 2 almost full-time employees, some with just a couple of hours every week. And we always have 2 interns, 1 or 2 interns, and we share lunches at the studio every day. We cook in rotation, just simple meals. There's also one more elaborated meal here. It was an evening celebration. But it's really from the beginning on, was seeing this place as a place where people come together, where we exchange ideas, and where we get some visibility for graphic storytelling, what we were so excited about. And in addition to the in-house team, there is three distributors who travel to 1,150 bookstores all over Germany twice a year with our books and the books of around 40 other publishing houses. They are for independent publishers. And we have an agent for license and foreign rights deals, and a handful of distributors and warehouses who send the books to the bookstores. We don't do that in-house. We only do the international bookstore orders and the online store orders at our place. And besides, we do all the planning and organizing and coordinating that comes with running a publishing house. So this is like kind of a timetable of 3 weeks. This is how I organize my work. And it was a successful time. Everything is checked out. Usually that's not the case. And yeah, it's really about having an overview, like doing the collaborating with the artists on making a book, bringing a book into printing, selecting everything for that, but also, of course, promoting the book, getting like it to reviews, organizing all the events and travels that we are doing, and somehow keeping connected to the vision, what it is all about. And yeah, I think in the editorial process, we are mostly the ones who have an eye on the timeline and structure the process a little bit for the moment when the book is released, so everything is in place, and try to give the artists also a lot of freedom in their work, but doing decisions together. It's really like making a book together than one making a book independently from the other, or just handing over the files and then the book somehow is made. So usually there is paper swatches that are shipped through the world, and we decide on colors, on the book format, on the printing technique, on the binding, like everything is done together. And I feel like I'm just there with my experience now and with my knowledge that I collected over the years as a conversation partner. And for each book, we try to find the best form to present the artwork and the storytelling, also when it comes to the binding, for example, in this case. And very often we are involved from the very first idea. I would love to talk more into details for each project, but I'm skipping that part. And when it comes to bringing things in an order, and also when it comes to preparing the files for printing, a lot of people that we collaborate with work with original, like analog drawing or digital drawing, but in RGB, and we have to print in CMYK. So there's always some work involved with the preparation of the file, like getting the old paper out to then print on the new paper. And finding ways to combine different narrational layers, implementing visual ideas into the format of a book, for example. But also I really like this was an example where it was really, I had to encourage the artist to present all ideas he had for the cover, because he said, there's one that I love so much, but I think it's not possible because there won't be text on the cover itself. And then it was like just giving the space and the freedom to be like, yeah, just present everything. Maybe we can find a solution. We did find a solution for this very nice idea to become a book cover. We just wrapped it for the bookstores. So like this kind of conversations I'm having all the time. But I think, yeah, we are just the people that the artists can talk to if they want to, or if they feel it would be good to get some feedback. And of course, we can come together at the place that we created and work there together. And the place also includes a bookstore in the front. So we present there our own books. In the beginning, it was really more like a showroom, but now it's a bookstore for graphic storytelling with, I think, nice and inspiring selections with different publishing houses, also zines and artist books from all over the world that I just bring from my travels, and a section for children's books that also brings in some money to pay the rent. And in the beginning, it was really a place to just make visible what we are about, like what we are interested in. We had lots of exhibition. It was more a gallery. We have this long, like 9-meter long hallway that is only 96 centimeters wide. So during COVID, we had to rethink that. So now we have book presentations there now and exhibitions also from small publishing houses that can just present the whole program there. And use the store windows, of course, also for exhibitions. And what I also think is nice, a lot of our artists, they do books, but they do not only do books. For example, they also work in sculpture. So we really try to be a platform to make these, to offer a platform to make these ideas visible in one way or another. Usually we have smaller projects that accompany the books. And we just give space for that, and I like it. It keeps everything vivid, and the distribution super complicated and challenging, so it never gets bored. We love to celebrate new books, so we usually do pre-order specials for people who place their order once the book is presented, do like lotteries, and it's also a nice way to just express ideas in addition to the ideas that are expressed in the book for our artists, I think. It's always a fun thing to think about, and when it comes to our corporate design, we keep it really, we hold back on it. I really want the books to be like one piece of art, so the artists usually hand letter or whatever, our logo or anything, and we try to design everything we do around the book release or the book presentation together with the artists, and not just bring our logo on top of everything. So we also use the backside of our catalogs for that, or like stickers, wrapping material, stand design, whatever comes into our mind. And yeah, we love our backlist. I think the books don't get old, but also it's always a special moment when a new book is born after all that work. So we love to do book release parties. Another theme of the book, like blueberry blue, what can we say? We had to do waffles with blueberries. Or here, the panic totem, like small vodka jelly shots with sugary eyes, like things that just need to happen in this world. And yes, Anna, I guess you know, that was when our very first book was published. And we organize book tours around that release as well, so our artists can go and read, have artist talks, exhibitions in different places as well. And some books, as I said, are translated into German, so the original artists do not speak German, and then sometimes we just organize readings with actors and actresses, like in this case, and I traveled to 5 theaters around Germany, which was really nice, and this one was a children's book reading that also got an original soundtrack composed, and the children had like music instruments under their seats that they could discover at a special moment, so it's about music in that book. Or for one of the children's comics, there was a whole rally where the children helped the character from the book to deliver the mail and solve the tasks, and they become space post officers as well at the end. So this traveled also to 3 festivals. And we invite the artists also, if they want to, they run workshops. So there is another possibility also for young people and students or people who are not professional artists to just engage with the art or the artistic approach of a special book or the artist behind it. And of course, we love to travel to fairs and festivals to just bring people together, to have a stand there, to organize collective readings, to organize breakfasts, to organize signings, like just to organize possibilities for the artists also to exchange with the audience and for the audience to get in touch with the people behind the books that they read and they have at home maybe or at the library. Yes, just some stands. And as we don't do exhibitions in our own place anymore, we now do exhibitions in other places, which is also nice, where we bring together different positions or for single books, of course. And then, as we are located in Kassel and there's an art school, I thought, well, we do a lot of events with the books that we publish ourselves, which makes just so much sense, but it would also be great to the reputation that we have now to offer the possibility for people who we do not publish also to make events together. So we invented in 2016 the Rotopol Tuesday Tales, which is a reading series on a Tuesday evening where people, comic artists can come and present their latest work, but also work in progress, read from their projects and have an artist conversation afterwards and are there for the audience. And sometimes these events are accompanied by small workshops or exhibitions, like interactive exhibitions more. We first had them in our store, but with 30 people it was too crowded then, like people are really like squeezed into the space. So now this is a gallery right next to our store where we organize these events now. And also trying to explore a little bit the collective creation. So we, for example, did a workshop with 5 artists that got some cultural funding with an institution about fairy tales, because the Brothers Grimm, they just lived in Kassel and worked there. It was also connected with the university, and for one weekend we worked together. In the end, we had a publication together, which was a nice experience. And we also have an anthology project with the students from the university. So I will edit this together with a students' editorial team. And we have a color concept, like some concept work in the background for each volume. And it's really nice to bring together all the different ideas and positions and style the students are working on. And publishing this, and this is also a book that goes through our regular distribution channels then in the end, like to all bookstores that want to have them. And besides that, we usually do not publish, like we don't have an anthology project in the back or something, but I do love to bring together different positions in events. So we usually do the Rotopol group readings at bigger fairs or festivals, where several artists just read from their projects, maybe like 8 or 10 minutes. And it's also, I think, for at least from the feedback that I get, a lot of our artists really like this or prefer it rather than to have like a 1-hour event on their own. Having this like 6 people together in 1 hour, it's like a nice setup, it's a good atmosphere and doable for all the artists. And then this year, actually, we came up with a new format called Zigzag Zines. It was at the Leipzig Book Fair, where we decided not to have a stand, but still wanted to do an event in the city. So we created small zines that you can fold. And our artists already drew something on the pages, and then the audience can add on that, and together with the artist create a small story. And this is just some photos from the event. Some of our artists were there. A lot of artists also who publish with other publishing houses were there, but also just people who were curious and usually don't draw. And it was a very nice, interactive, setup. Evening, there are some of the results. And another project we had for a long time, actually, had 3 editions, was the Rotopol Mystery Show, where we shipped, like, I love to collect stuff, I have to say, and it was just the best reason to do so, just to collect like small trash and things that you find somehow and that have maybe a nice shape or something. So I packed boxes, like the big match boxes, and we shipped these to artists who wanted to participate. There were usually 2 or 3 of these items in the box, and asked them to create an illustration inspired by these. And there was always one, the work called, like, the first one was the Foresters collection, and then we had the Inventors collection, different collectors, and we had a generator for the title with like 2 times 10 words that were combined, so that there was a little bit of a framework for the audience and for the whole body of work, let's say. And then before I shipped the batch boxes, I always took a photo of them, and in the exhibition you would have the final piece and the photo of the objects. So it was a nice exhibition. It was just following the idea to making things visible, like the creative process somehow. It was very interesting, I think, to observe the audience and to see how they were like reading the images in a different way. And for the artists themselves, I think a lot of them had fun, at least that is what they said. And the idea behind it was, before we did topic-bound group shows, like one a year, in the beginning every 6 weeks, but that was a bit crazy. And then later one per year. And it felt at some point that it was so much everyone is dealing with, like all the freelance work, and then doing books, and then getting a topic, and then like digging into the topic, and like it's so, I don't know, overthought somehow, maybe, for the creative process. And I thought it would be just so nice to bring in some fun element, like something to have something to hook to that gets you inspired, but that is not like you can just play a little bit at the art as an artist. And so that was the idea behind that. And it was quite a lot of images in the end. So in Berlin we showed them all together, all 3 editions. And also the third one, I think it premiered here at the Tinta Festival some years ago. And then of course we also did alongside, we did workshops, because yeah, it's so cool to also pack small boxes for the workshop participants, and then to go through the exhibition first and then work on something. So this was here in Dobrovaga Gallery. It was a zine workshop that I also had this one in Shanghai, for example, and in Sofia. And it's also so nice because with so many different cultural backgrounds, you can start working because you got a stone and a balloon or something, and then you can start working on a story, and the topics, they will just flow into it, I think. Everyone can work on the topics that are important for themselves, and then just so that bring it then all together. Like, yes, a nail and a candle, but there's so many cool things you can do with that. So yeah, I think, looking at Rotopol, I think it's just really about seeing the creative potential around us and then just bringing it together in the form of a book, in the form of an event, some kind of exchange, and just making it visible in many different ways. I think this is maybe what Rotopol is. And happy to be here. Thank you.
I cannot find words after this. Like, this is so rich. Thank you so much for bringing. Like, this was almost like a dance of ideas coming from comics and around comics. And I talk a lot about our communities, but like in Hungary, one of the biggest problems is that comics is isolated. And now you have given me like 10,000 ideas of getting out of the isolation and establishing connections by performances or sister arts or whatever. So thank you so much for that. My brain is full of images now. So for you, does it always start with a comics idea, like a story idea, or does it sometimes start with a very different idea and then somehow ends up being a comic? Does this question make sense to you?
Yeah, you mean for me as an artist myself or as a publisher?
Both.
Oh, well. So I think as an artist myself, I don't think I do comics in a classic sense. It's more maybe illustration and words combinations. And there is no ever so process, like it's different for every project, I guess. I just keep working while I'm doing this and hope for some time to finish books. It's rare at the moment, I have to say, but it happens because the creative mind is always there. But it can start with a small drawing. It can start with a thought that just pops up, and then I think the most important always is to just hold it on paper and come back to it later, maybe just like opening a door again after having 20 phone calls or something, having the possibility to reconnect with that idea, whatever form. But I think most times it starts with a drawing or a visual idea for me, and then the story comes from there. And with the books that I publish and that I don't draw myself, it's very different also for every book, and also different from artist to artist. I think that's really the collaboration process very often is a very personal process, and from a lot of books I'm involved from the first idea on. And I'm super grateful for the trust of the artists in that. But it can also take every path actually in the process. And there are books that are made within 1 year and books that are made in 7 years. So there is no normal, I would say. But I think what's for me very interesting working with artists, and maybe you saw it in the books in the beginning, there's mostly only one name, because I really see Rotopol as a platform for comic artists and illustrators or people who draw, who also write. Because 2006, 2007, there was no possibility, especially for illustrators, to do this, because they were only hired to illustrate someone else's work. But I thought, well, there are so many brilliant ideas and stories out there. It would be really great to include this in the profession, to be your own author. And I think for me as a publisher, it's just so interesting, because I think projects that are thought by the same person from the very first idea, the visual layer is in a different relation to the text, because it's part for the storytelling from the beginning. It's not an addition later on. And I think this is what makes these projects so interesting for me, and what I think is so nice to bring them into book form. And we have sometimes 2 people working together, but then they are really working from the very first idea together very closely. And I'm just interested in the forms or the ways of graphically narrating the stories in that way, like not going with the conventions just because you do, but just like maybe stepping a step back and inventing the forms that you need, and they come then from inside the project rather from on somewhere else. I don't know how to explain. In English it's a bit tricky. But
I think we got this,
okay.
And I think most of us have many ideas and questions. So I suggest now you guys to find both Eva and Rita in the 10-minute break that we are going to have.
Okay.
So we will meet at 7:10 for the big discussion in which we bring together tons of creators and perspectives, and we will run against time again. So let's give a big round of applause to Rotopol. And see you in 10 minutes.